The truth about drug testing in sports. Is it really fair? Drug testing in sports is meant to level the playing field to ensure that athletes win based on talent, hard work, and dedication, not by using performance-enhancing drugs. That's the goal. The idea is simple. Keep things clean, keep things fair. But dig a little deeper and you'll uncover a world of controversy, inconsistencies, and high-stakes decisions that have ended careers and ruined reputations. The question that echoes across locker rooms, courts, tracks, and fields remains: is drug testing in sports truly fair? But before we dive in, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on our upcoming videos. Now, let's get started. Why drug testing exists in the first place. Drug testing became widespread in the 1960s and 70s, especially after tragic events like the death of Danish cyclist Knud Enemark Jensen in the 1960 Rome Olympics, which was linked to amphetamine use. As sports evolved into billion-dollar industries, ensuring fair play became not just a matter of ethics, but economics and public trust. Performance-enhancing drugs like anabolic steroids, human growth hormone, HGH, and EPO can significantly boost strength, speed, endurance, and recovery. They offer an edge, but at a cost: health risks, potential addiction, and the corruption of competition. The response was the rise of organizations like World Anti-Doping Agency, U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, and NADO bodies in other countries. These groups create rules, conduct tests, and hand down suspensions. On paper, it's a fair system. But in practice, it's a lot more complicated. The gray areas in testing protocols. Not all drug tests are created equal. Testing standards can vary drastically from country to country and from one sport to another. An athlete might be banned in one league for a substance that's perfectly legal in another. Take caffeine, for example. It was once banned in high concentrations. Now it's allowed in moderation. But how do you define moderation? Or consider marijuana. It's legal in many parts of the world, but still restricted in some sports. American sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson was famously banned from the Olympics in 2021 for using marijuana, despite it having no performance-enhancing effect. The world debated, was that fair? Then there's the issue of therapeutic use exemptions, permission to use banned substances for legitimate medical reasons. While TEDs make sense in theory, critics argue they're often exploited by athletes who claim illnesses to gain legal access to banned performance enhancers. Some athletes get them, some don't. Who decides, and how consistent is that process? False positives and career-ending accusations. Drug testing isn't perfect. Athletes have tested positive because of contaminated supplements, faulty lab work, or even consuming everyday products that unknowingly contain banned substances. Consider the case of Alan Baxter, a British skier stripped of his Olympic medal in 2002 after testing positive for a stimulant found in a US version of an over-the-counter nasal spray, something legal in the UK, but banned in the US. Baxter wasn't trying to cheat, but he paid the ultimate price. False positives like this raise the question: is the system protecting clean athletes or punishing them unjustly? When the stakes are high, Olympic medals, million-dollar endorsements, and years of training, one mistake or lab error can shatter a career. The emotional toll is incalculable. For athletes who dedicate their lives to their sport, an accusation of doping can be worse than the punishment itself. It's a cloud that hangs over their reputation, even if proven innocent later. And the damage doesn't always heal, as many athletes have found that no amount of evidence can erase the stain of suspicion. In many cases, once an athlete's name is linked to performance-enhancing drugs, public perception remains tainted, making it harder to recover their standing, even if they were wrongfully accused. The pressure to perform and the temptation to cheat. Professional athletes are under immense pressure to win. They have short careers and enormous expectations. Sponsors, fans, and entire nations ride on their performances. In this high-pressure environment, some turn to performance-enhancing drugs, not necessarily to dominate, but just to keep up. This isn't just about greed or ego, it's about survival. If a rival is gaining an edge with undetectable substances, what's the incentive to stay clean? Some argue that the testing system pushes athletes into a dangerous game of risk versus reward, where the cheaters win until they're caught, and the clean athletes constantly fall behind. The Lance Armstrong legacy. No discussion about fairness in drug testing is complete without mentioning Lance Armstrong. For years, Armstrong passed hundreds of drug tests and vehemently denied doping. He became a symbol of endurance and inspiration. Then, the truth exploded. Through blood doping and sophisticated cheating systems, Armstrong and his team had dodged every test. When the truth came out, it wasn't just a scandal, it was a reckoning. Armstrong was stripped of his 7 Tour de France titles. But the bigger question lingered. If he passed all the tests, how effective is the system? And how many others are doing the same thing just more quietly? Armstrong's case shook the entire sports world because it revealed the massive gaps in anti-doping procedures, with some athletes using cutting-edge methods to stay one step ahead. The fact that Armstrong's deceit went undetected for so long raised further doubts about the integrity of competitive sports. Are some athletes targeted more than others? There's also a growing belief that some athletes are unfairly targeted based on their nationality, sport, or past reputation. Star athletes are tested more frequently, which makes sense. They have more to lose, and the spotlight is on them. But in some cases, the attention feels excessive. Russian athletes, for example, have been under a microscope since the state-sponsored doping scandal emerged. While the punishment was necessary, many clean Russian athletes were also banned or restricted, sparking cries of injustice. Similarly, African and Caribbean athletes have sometimes complained of being over-tested compared to their Western counterparts. This raises serious concerns about bias, discrimination, and fairness within the anti-doping world. The business of clean sport. Let's not ignore the money. Anti-doping is a multi-million-dollar industry. Testing labs, agencies, legal teams, and consultants all benefit from keeping the system running. In some cases, critics argue that athletes become pawns in political or business games. When testing becomes a business, how impartial can it really be? When careers are destroyed and medals are stripped, the process should be transparent, consistent, and trustworthy. But many argue that right now, it's anything but. The financial stakes in anti-doping are immense, and with that comes the potential for corruption and mismanagement. In some instances, agencies that oversee testing have been accused of prioritizing profits over the fair treatment of athletes. Legal battles surrounding false positives, delayed test results, or faulty equipment often drag on for years, costing athletes time, money, and reputations. Where technology comes in. Technology has revolutionized drug testing. From blood passports to DNA-based monitoring, the tools are getting more precise. But so are the methods of cheating. Microdosing, designer drugs, and timing strategies make detection harder. There's an ongoing arms race between testers and cheaters. The question is, will the testers ever truly catch up? And even if they do, will the system adapt quickly enough to stay relevant? What should a fair system look like? A truly fair system would need to balance strict testing with human understanding. It would treat all athletes equally, regardless of fame or nationality. Ensure transparency in how decisions are made. Provide fast, fair appeal processes. Offer better education so athletes understand what's banned. Penalize real cheaters without destroying innocent careers. Fairness isn't just about finding who's guilty. It's about protecting the innocent. A perfect system may not exist, but it can be better than what we have now. Is it time to rethink the rules? Some experts argue that it's time for a radical rethink. Should athletes be allowed to use some substances under medical supervision? Could a harm reduction approach work better than a zero-tolerance one? After all, the human body has limits, and in a world where athletes push themselves to the edge, maybe the current black and white rules no longer fit the complex gray reality of elite sports. Others say that would destroy the integrity of competition entirely. If athletes start taking drugs openly, where does it end? Do we end up celebrating pharmacology instead of human excellence? The debate continues, and it's not going away anytime soon. So, what's your take on drug testing in sports? Is it a flawed but necessary system? Or is it broken beyond repair? Should athletes have more freedom, or do we need even stricter enforcement? Join the conversation in the comments below. We want to hear your thoughts. If you found this deep dive eye-opening, give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for more investigations into the world behind the games. Because sometimes the biggest battles in sports don't happen on the field, they happen behind closed doors, in labs, in courtrooms, and in the minds of athletes who just want to play fair.